Ladies and gentlemen, we've got another dynamic pairing here at the ACHL digital event. And again, just to remind everybody, the theme of the conference is From Crisis to Care and Genuine Collaboration and Initiatives. And we've got two stars from the US of A, two great airports. So we've got Christina Cassotis from Pittsburgh International Airport, and Christina is the CEO. And we've also got Jim, and I always have a little bit of problem with the surname, so forgive me, Jim, but I'm going to have a little stab at it again. Szczesniak.
Perfect.
Yeah, fantastic. And Jim is the airport director at the Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport. So, guys, absolute pleasure to have you on, and thank you for joining us from the States. What I'd like to do first and foremost is we've had a terrible past 5-6 months for the industry. So as individual leaders and people responsible for your airports, can you just give us a little bit of feedback as to what it's meant to you and what experiences you've had or lessons learned as a leader? So if we can start with you, Christina.
That's all we're going to do. It's just a little encapsulation of the last 6 months. First of all, thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. I love the topic that we're covering, and I'm really excited to be here with Jim, because I think what we've done in the cargo space is really innovative and collaborative, and sometimes the U.S. airports aren't always known for that. So I'm really excited that we get to be at the forefront of this. The last 6 months have been, how do you put it in words? I'm so sick of unprecedented, so I don't want to use that one. I will say that watching all of our hard work circle the drain in late March and April was just astounding. It was the most amazing experience to see everything we've built unravel so quickly. Yeah. And yet, what we had just revealed to the larger team we had worked on as a leadership team and then revealed to the rest of the staff in early January was our smart plan forward. You know, how are we going to be, this is pre-COVID, right? How are we going to be thinking of the next 5 years? And it turns out that for us, everything that we've done has really been within the context of the 5 main goals that we set forward. We just reprioritized within those goals. So one of the big learnings for us is that our long-term plan will not be put aside for the short-term crisis. That said, we are managing the short-term crisis. So we are doing what a lot of other organizations are doing. We're sweating the asset, right? We're focused on costs, cutting operating and capital, and making sure that the integrity of the facilities and the team is intact no matter what. So that's the 35,000 foot view. There's a lot that we could talk about within those categories. But one of the things that's come out of this is this partnership that we're working on with Anchorage, because we have a real focus on cargo, and nobody in the US is better at it than Anchorage. So to be partnered with them and to have this opportunity to look differently at the industry that fits right into our strategic initiative, it's just does it differently than we thought we would do.
Yep, it certainly caught us all by surprise. So, Christina, thank you very much for that. And Jim, the same review from yourself, please.
Yeah, so our airport's a little different because of the fact that we do have kind of the two universes of passenger and cargo. So, from a cargo perspective, obviously, we've been very busy and focused on making sure that our customers can operate efficiently through the airport. So we've again had peaks where we're having to turn over passenger gates to be able to host cargo aircraft, working on different parking perspectives. So that was something that we had to have the operational folks really focus on right away, is making sure that with the waves of cargo planes that were coming in, that we had the ability to keep our bread and butter and our main customers efficient and operating. And then from the passenger side of the house, we had to implement a lot of stuff to kind of restore confidence and to save or salvage whatever kind of a summer tourism season we could, because Alaska's economy is really dependent on a handful of industries. Aviation is one, and tourism is one of the others. And that market saw some real challenges. But it was it's been really different because of the fact that we got the direction from the governor that we had 10 days to implement a passenger screening and COVID testing at the airport. So in 10 days, we were actually able to put that together with the help of the health folks at our airport. So we were able to salvage some of a summer, and we're looking to use that as a competitive advantage for next summer to be able to say, hey, we've got our COVID situation solved here, and we're ready to go. So it's been a kind of wearing two different hats at the airport, trying to again make sure that the passenger side of the house, we do the best that we can there, but then really focusing on keeping the cargo guys operating.
And just to put things in perspective, Jim. So what's it, around 4.5 million passengers a year? Tourists come in and out.
Yeah, so we get about 5.8 million passengers to the terminal every year, and the vast majority of them come between May and September.
Okay, and how's it affected you so far?
So we're doing better than national average. So if we look at our TSA checkpoint numbers, we're seeing about 40% of what we did last year. So that's actually pretty good in this market. And so we're trying to make sure that we can get that 40% and maintain it somewhere and steadily grow it.
Yeah, and again on the cargo side, the average year, what's it? Somewhere between 2.6 and 3 million tons.
Yeah, we're usually around 2.8 million, 2.9. So we're definitely looking to be topping that this year.
Yeah, it's incredible how it's swung and how important cargo has become, not just in the aviation business, but across the world, keeping the supply chain going. Now, Christina, you had a purple patch with the airport with all the awards. You won some tremendous awards. And one of the ones that I was really pleased to see was the one Airport of the Year and Regional Airport of the Year by Kappa Center for Aviation, plus one of the most innovative companies in the world as hit upon there by Fast Company magazine. But also you won a couple of awards recognized this year as well. So it must have been a huge amount of pride and then such a shock to have to go into a different mode of leadership.
It's not a different mode of leadership. It's the same leadership, right? You're still taking a team along a challenging journey and you're saying, okay, how are we going to come out ahead? How are we going to take what we have and make it work as we meet the needs of this crisis? So as I listened to Jim talk about passengers and cargo, we're very much a passenger airport and a formerly hub airport for U.S. Airways. And, we went through this massive change in really transitioning the culture and the community expectations away from we will be a hub again to let's be a strong origin and destination airport, but also let's sweat all the assets. So how do we build a logistics and a cargo community? And how do we go about thinking differently in terms of technology, in terms of land use, in terms of, using the assets that are right literally under our feet, which is why we're building the first microgrid that will completely power any airport from the gas that comes out of the ground and the solar coming from above. And that's on budget and on time. That's being built right now. It'll power the airport this time next year. So we are innovative and we're creative and we're constantly pushing the envelope so that we can push this industry and make sure that the community is reflecting all of the assets that are within it, right? As a leader for robotics and AI, Pittsburgh has a lot of assets that should be represented right at the airport in the way that it does business and visible to the passenger as well as to the partner. So that's really, the leadership isn't different. It's just a different challenge, in my opinion. And I'm really lucky that I've been able to assemble and keep a really fantastic team, and they make stuff happen all the time.
No, that's lovely to hear. Now, what you're also saying there about doing things the same but doing things differently. What was the main driving force to team up or to partner with Anchorage?
They're the best in the country when it comes to cargo. They have a really unique position that they serve for the country, right? What Anchorage does is allow for the ability for these really long haul flights to get into our country and to do it as cost effectively as possible. So the fact that Anchorage does a good job at this, that they take it as seriously as they do, and that this is an opportunity for us to, frankly, get some street cred by being associated with them, and to bring our partnership to bear and our thinking to this. This is just a great opportunity. We're really excited. There's a Pittsburgh connection everywhere, and we have happened to find them with Jim as well as with his head of air service, and it just, the conversation just sort of naturally occurred, and here we are. I'm really excited about it.
No, that's great. What a great accolade, Christina. What a shame Jim's got such a wonderful poker face. He didn't show any emotion with all of those credits and hey, recognition. Jim.
He's so used to it. He's like,
man.
I hear this all the time.
Hey, give a little smile there, mate, and a little twinkle. So, Jim, what has Pittsburgh got to offer? Because in every partnership and team up, there's always learnings from all sides. So, from your perspective, what's so special about Pittsburgh?
So, we're always trying to grow the airport, and so we look for growth opportunities. But then again, from an Anchorage perspective, since we have those special air cargo transfer rights that allow carriers to do the air cargo hub and spoke, adding destinations and markets is really important to us. So from a growth perspective, you look at Pittsburgh, it's a former U.S. air hub. So from a runway capacity standpoint, they have a lot. And then they've got new cargo facilities coming online. So we look at that Pittsburgh market as the potential to be able to kind of offload some of the congested airports that don't have real growth opportunities in the future. And then Pittsburgh strategically located where you can service the Northeast, the Southeast, and the Midwest of America all out of that one location. So strategically, we think that the Pittsburgh market offers a good growth opportunity, coupled with the fact that they don't have the congestion problems that some of the other airports have.
Yeah, which is so important, and especially for yourself with the fact that you're traditionally known to service, obviously the link between Asia and the Americas, and you've got the three big consolidators there who I'm sure are rubbing their hands with the growth that they've had through this period as well.
Yeah, so they've got, our if you look at UPS and FedEx, their second quarter numbers with us were over 40% growth. So, it was, again, second quarter for us was record setting for all of our customers. And again, it's one of those things that we're very excited that they're having, this good traffic during this COVID crisis, trying to defeat the virus with the supplies and medical equipment that they're bringing back and forth. But ultimately, as e-commerce becomes more prevalent with this pandemic, those guys are going to benefit from that.
Don't you think, can I just ask, can I jump in, Chris? So don't you think, Jim, that we're not going back from e-commerce, right?
Even pre-COVID, it was growing at exponential rates, and again, you're seeing it grow even more now.
Yeah. Do you both think that there's a lot of talk now about onshoring, homeshoring, and having quotas before taking things from outside markets, and the old lessons that we were being taught about just in time and forecasting and doing everything just at the right time, that there needs to be a little bit more of a conscious awareness for sustainability and continuity and making sure that we've got enough stock and we're not relying on too many single sources. How do you think that's going to affect the businesses in the future?
Well, from an Anchorage perspective, we always look at it as beneficial kind of for us because of the fact that we've got China Plus One strategies a lot of people are implementing now. And so we, Chinese cargo is our largest market, but, we are strategically positioned so that we can do that China Plus One. Yeah. We're also looking at it from an airport perspective to do better development at the Anchorage airport, supporting that operation. So an example would be, instead of having a warehouse in Taipei, Tokyo, Hong Kong, all these high rent districts over in Asia, we could just have one in Anchorage, and then we've got multiple airplanes every day that go out there. And the same thing works for North America. So that's kind of where we're seeing a little bit of a logistics advantage is China Plus One we can take advantage of, and that strategy of being more efficient with your operations. I mean, the one thing that we do have, we've got the airplanes. We looked at the numbers in the second quarter, or in June specifically, and we've got 31 destinations that we serve over the globe nonstop with daily freighter service. So it's just, it's really a powerful logistics center.
It's a lovely problem to have, Jim, and a lovely one to be looking out your window at, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Now, Christina, taking that on board, do you also see that as an opportunity now to be a further distribution centre as it comes in and then it gets pushed on to certain strategic airports?
No question, and I appreciate what Jim was highlighting in terms of our attributes, right? You can get your cargo off of the airplane and into the trucks onto the highways within a matter of hours as opposed to days, and that's a big deal. We think that matters from the perspective of the cargo that is still being manufactured elsewhere and needs to be shipped in. We're looking at our own ability to become an exporter, quite frankly, in the region. So we are the 7th largest airport in the US from a land mass perspective. And we have dedicated a couple hundred acres to development for the additive manufacturing industry, understanding the nearshoring, onshoring trends that are going on. We want to make sure that additive can grow faster. And the way to do that is to take cost out of the process, which means co-locating all parts of the system in one neighborhood. We calling it Neighborhood 91 because Pittsburgh has 90 neighborhoods and this is the 91st. And so eventually what we would like to see is that that cargo export and at some point in the long run go back through Anchorage. So we look at this as a long play, but something that is very much rooted in the current crisis and can take advantage of that. We actually break ground on the first building in a matter of weeks, and we've been we sold out the first building in the pandemic.
Very good, very good. And that's what we need to hear. You know, all these positives, you know, planned positives instead of so much media negativity, which drives me absolutely crazy. The more positive things we have in this tough time, the better. Now, on the positives, as an airport, and you've got your own ecosystem, your own community, do you think there's an opportunity not to take over or to pressurize the carriers and the GHAs to do things differently, including the forwarders, the truckers, but do you see an opportunity now to start to have a more directive role and a more influencing role over the community as to doing things simpler, more effective, and possibly whilst we go through another second wave, more transparent and communicative, so people know that if something happens, this is what's going to happen, not leaving things open for debate and discussion and whether you should, you shouldn't, and typical thing being the mask. I mean, just on a personal note, I'm not asking either of you two to comment, but I just thought that was ridiculous. And the World Health Organization included, you know, to say that it was of no benefit, the logic and common sense was lacking there. So moving forward, do you see the airports now having the chance to really direct their own communities in a very simple and direct fashion? Christina.
I think we've always had that. Just to be clear, I think we've always had that. I think that now it's become more apparent that we should be doing that. And one of the reasons for this partnership is that Jim and I believe that there's an opportunity to streamline the process for the cargo carriers. Let's make sure that we are aligned, that you've got a service level agreement that we both agree to, and how can we make this easier and less, to not have to have two different agreements going back and forth to headquarters of the carrier, and to be able to, quite frankly, follow their lead and make this a seamless process. That's the goal. That's one part of it, right? That's why we formed this partnership. But separate from that, do I think that every airport has a responsibility? Yes, I think we do. And I think we need to understand that we are actors and not acted upon. And we need to act that way. So there's a huge opportunity. I think it's always been here. It's just more prevalent and more obvious now.
Oh, very, very good. And Jim, your opinion there?
So the one thing that kind of always brings it home for me is that our customers can literally fly away. So it's always good for us to make sure that we're focusing on trying to get the community to cooperate and coordinate to be able to operate efficiently. And that's really important right now because of the fact with the belly capacity gone from the international freighter side of the international cargo passenger side, the freighter network is being pushed to its max right now. So that's really something what we're trying to emphasize how, our airport can help that situation where we don't have the issue of congestion, or with our routing and our cargo transfer rights, we have the ability to help the entire operation move more efficiently, because again, the freighters are maxed out right now.
Yeah, no, indeed. And I think you both agree, some of the regulators and the official bodies, they've been very, very agile and very quick to support with, we're talking about our traffic rights and various other incentives and guidelines like EASA with the Praetor concept. I think it's been very, very good, and it's proven how quickly things can be done.
Yeah, I agree. I also think that we have a really unique opportunity to act as consultants to our partners. How can, knowing what we know about our community, I love what Jim said, that our clients can fly away. We look at that for passenger and cargo. It's really easy to move the plane. So why should they stay? First of all, why should they come? And then why should they stay? And I think that's on us to demonstrate through true partnership and to act in a consulting capacity. What's the goal? How can we both work together to make that happen? That's how we look at this right now.
And I think from a marketing and a customer or a service delivery perspective, as a community, if everybody focuses on that in an airport and then teams up with airports that are successful or are driving things forward, then that's where the consistency and the efficiencies come in. So I think that's a great way of looking at it. And Jim?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at definitely a lot of different things. And again, that Pittsburgh thing that was attractive about it too is, again, we always have to deal with this trade imbalance where, the 8 planes from Asia coming over are full and going back are not as full. So working with the Pittsburgh airport helps us kind of help to balance that, hopefully, trade going back. And so we're very interested in making sure that these kind of experiences can be translated to our customers, so we can explain to them, hey, you can get into Pittsburgh and get your stuff out quicker, but then you also have this kind of a market to draw and bring cargo into your aircraft to bring back.
Exactly. Now something, I mean, all of us over the years, we're used to things like the new Apple iPhone, and it has to be dispatched and put in shops at a certain time and a certain date, and everybody panics over it. I think the one that everybody's waiting for now is the vaccine transfer and the vaccine distribution. Are you guys looking at the capability at each of your airport, to handle and to store and to distribute the vaccines as and when they start moving around the country and internationally? Christina?
Absolutely, and that's what we're working on right now. Is where we are, as Jim mentioned, we are building a new cargo building, but that's never going to be ready in time for something like this. So what do we do in the meantime? What can we do with the existing facilities? How do we supplement? How do we make sure that, just like with the FEMA flights to distribute the PPE, that we're also available to be one of the main distribution points, an uncongested, easily accessible, point to be able to distribute from. So we're working on that right now.
Okay, good. And Jim?
Yeah, so what we're doing obviously is we're looking at our summer operation and the peaks of when we had the PPE, peaks going through the airport, and seeing what we can do to even increase our capacity after that. We also have a former military hangar at the airport that we're looking to be able to use if people need to store vaccine at the airport. One of the great things for pharmaceuticals in the Anchorage airport is about half the year it's pretty cold there. So it doesn't really cost that much money to basically keep things cool in Alaska. So we're looking, if they're going to be putting that virus, the antidote out sometime in the late fall, early winter, that's definitely cold season here in Anchorage.
Yeah, no, that's nature has its way of compensating sometimes, and it's a wonderful thing. Huh? Now, as far as looking, you got your vaccines. If I was part of the government or an overseeing, I'd be wanting to know which airport can handle what effectively, and I'd be doing some sort of strategic organisation. So, is that something that you're conscious of, Christina?
Whether or not the government is doing that?
Yeah.
I have not been made aware of that yet.
But do you think it would make sense that at least if airports
of course, and certainly the capability exists, right? That between DOT and FAA and through the trade organizations with ACI, that's something that could be done. And sure, I would hope that somebody is thinking that way. I just haven't had that conversation with anybody. Jim, I'm not sure if you have.
And Jim?
Yeah, so the feds are doing, they're working their Operation Warp Speed, and that includes the vaccine. And so what we're generally doing is we're working with our existing customers at the airport to let them know that we have, what's available from a surplus perspective to be able to push vaccine through. So that's additional parking positions where we can get fueling to, because again, it's a lot of these people at our airport are on the ground for an hour and a half to 2 hours and are just fueling and going. But then also working with, the UPSs and the FedExes and the DHLs to be able to get them to understand what, outside of their existing box at the airport, what else can we do to help support the push through that peak when we get the vaccine.
Yeah, no, good. Now, another initiative and one that our industry has been talking about for far too long is, the digitization and also, reducing the touch points of documentation, etc. Do you think you've got a good, strong influencing possibility to bring that to a level where anybody who's been around for the last, well, I was going to say 5, 10, but it's probably 15, 20 years, would see that at last, and possibly because of a crisis and the need for better hygiene regimes, that that maybe something will be done?
Jim, you go first this time.
Yeah, so obviously we're definitely very excited about that, kind of continuing to progress, because again, with that, one of our big attributes is our large network and our special cargo transfer provisions, and those transfer provisions can be easily executed if you've got a paperless kind of system. But if we have to have a transfer regime that still has the paper running around, that makes it less attractive. So we're definitely interested in that. We do have at the airport right now about $700 million worth of private investment in air cargo facilities that are in the pipeline. So as we bring those forward, those facilities are specifically designed for this cargo transfer process. So we want to make sure that we can get as electronic as possible and get away from the paper.
Yeah, I think it's a good prerequisite of all new facilities and new initiatives and new programs, that it's part and parcel of what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, it's given the people the information that's necessary to, because of the fact that cargo schedules are notoriously kind of opaque, and so if we as the airport can actually consolidate some data and explain, here's where aircraft fly and here's where you have access to, that's helpful for the community.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Christina, another area. Obviously, most airports they get frustrated with the congestion at certain times of the day and night and certain days of the week, and also there's traditional reasons for that. Do you see opportunities now to put certain criteria in place that would, move people away from the old practices and make them more geared up to efficiencies?
Well, you mean in Pittsburgh? Listen, we got so much space. There's so much there. As Jim said, I mean, we're a former hub. We were built as a mega hub. We've got, 3 parallel runways and a crosswind. We can handle a lot of aircraft, certainly, 3x, 4x of what we're doing today. So I'm not too worried about that right now. I think the sun's coming in through my windows. I think it's a long time before we have that problem. We're looking at, of course, you always want to start as you intend to go forward. So sure, we're looking at every kind of efficiency that's going to make our operation in the long run as logical and as continually congestion-free as possible. So as we build our new cargo facilities and plan yet for more, that's something that we'll be mindful of as we move forward. But right now, I'm telling you, we're good for a really long time. And that's one of the reasons that we want to strike right now, is that there's tremendous need. As cargo, as Jim said, it's so much bigger than it was. It keeps getting bigger. They're ripping seats out of passenger planes, and they need places to put them. And if you keep going through the traditional gateways, you're going to see more and more delays. That's going to cause a ripple effect in the system, and we're one of the reasons that that doesn't have to happen.
That was perfect timing, Christina, with the successes and the opportunities for Pittsburgh. Even you had your own ray of sunlight shone down on you as you were saying how good things were. Now, but you're right. And I think that's going to be a big decision maker for a lot of people. You know, they're going to have to look at where is the resilience, the agility, and the opportunity to make sure things run as smoothly as possible. So, I mean, that bodes well. It bodes well for the future. Now, for both of you, I'm sure you're immensely proud of what's gone on within your organizations and the businesses that operate out of your airport. On some of these other discussions, we had a little bit of feedback where you've got several GHAs, several of them are fully committed to supplying PPE and ensuring PPE is worked upon. Then you have the odd one who says it's not deemed from a scientific perspective as being desperately necessary. So you've got a difference of standards. Do you feel that you're able to also influence the standards of the airport to make sure that the community has the same sort of presence or the same ring fence around it, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about our market is it's really competitive. So the competitive forces that are around here really can drive a lot of that control without the airport having to step in there and do anything like that. So again, we've got 3 handling agents at the airport that are competing for everybody's business, and we want to make sure that our carriers they regularly switch them based on that competitiveness. So we've got the market in Anchorage that's basically disciplining that right now.
Okay, very good. And Christina?
I'd say the same thing, right? That I mean, that that's a tough business from a margin perspective. And so I think everybody is always looking to, do the best they can, put the best product and service forward when it comes to getting the new service as a client. We had so much growth right up until March that we were seeing a lot of, I'd say the same kind of market discipline that Jim is talking about. It takes care of itself. We're not having to put regulation in place to make that the market is taking care of it. The competitive nature of the market has taken care of that. And I expect that will continue. We do keep an eye on it, don't get me wrong, but we just haven't had to step in.
No, very good. And from your traditional oversight perspective with safety and security, with people maybe having to have quarantine or people having to be segregated, etc. How do you see the capability and the competence levels with regards to training carrying on when there's a transfer from classroom training to online training and certification? How's that been handled, Jim?
So for our airport, we've been pretty successful, or at least a lot of the entities at our airport have been very successful because we've had a lot of people that, with our passenger service being down, they've taken a lot of people that used to do the above wing and put them into the below wing. Mm-hmm. And so those people are coming with a basic understanding of what's happening at the airport. And we as the airport, again, try and help our community by educating the populace on the job opportunities and potential at the airport and working with the local colleges and high schools to get the people, a basic level of training that can make them successful in our industry. So those are the kind of support roles that we're seeing. And from a regulatory standpoint, we're trying to help them and let business do its thing and us get out of the way.
Okay, very good. And Christina?
I would say that, one of the things that we're very focused on is how do we as an industry overall respond to the current crisis and inspire confidence in travel, right? That we all need more people traveling in order to get back to where we were from a business perspective. And yet we have to make sure that we're meeting people's needs and making them feel safe and confident to do so. That goes just as much for the people working at the airport. You have to make sure that people feel good about coming to work. You have to make sure that they feel good about what they're doing, how they're being trained, etc. We have been for quite some time moving into much more digital delivery of training and supplementing that with the kind of on-the-job training for our own staff. And we have been mindful of what our partners are doing. We haven't seen any interruption in that. We haven't seen any challenges that weren't already being addressed. because quite frankly, some of the digital delivery is much more cost effective, and it's something you can do more often. So we're finding that, that we haven't skipped a beat when it comes to training or making people feel comfortable at the airport through our Pit Safe Travels program and all of the things that we're requiring for people who are working at the airport.
Okay, brilliant. Now, one area that I mentioned to you just before we came on was that I was going to ask each of you to come up with 3 points that you would be confident of committing to or putting forward from your own personal position and the position of the airport for the good of the supply chain and the community. And also on the flip side, 3 things that you'd like to see being put forward from the community or the supply chain that would help benefit the airport's efficiency and success. So to start with the one that you would commit with first. So as you've given me the nicest smile, Christina, I'll start with you, Jim.
Good.
All right. So what we kind of commit to the industry is, number one, we're going to try and keep your costs low. And then, because that's important in this environment. Prior to COVID, we had just reduced landing fees at the airport by 20%, and we want to keep that focus on low cost operations through our airport. The other thing that we'd want to basically commit to is trying to make sure that you have an efficient operation at our airport. We don't want the supply chain getting bogged down because of issues at the airport. So we are going to make sure that our infrastructure and our protocols are there to keep your operation moving efficiently. And then the third thing is that we are going to commit to try and get that confidence in the traveler back so that we can, get things functioning more normally. I mean, it's pretty frightening that, in the second quarter of this year, in the United States, Anchorage was the 3rd busiest airport. And so being the busiest cargo airport, that's something that's very attractive. Being the 3rd busiest airport in the entire United States for the second quarter is not something I'm interested in keeping.
Yeah, no, fair play to you. That's a valid point. And Christina, your 3?
Yeah, so I'd say that I'd start with cost effectiveness, right? First and foremost, that it's cost effective to fly into the airport because we can get you in and out so quickly. The second thing I would commit to is partnership, that as you enter into or seek to depart from, we'll be with you all the way through, right? Helping to troubleshoot and problem solve. And finally, I would say that what we're committing to is resiliency and redundancy. So we've got an operation that we can assure people, and we're actually looking at how to do that through service level agreements, et cetera, that, we can commit to, a couple of hours of getting that freight moving off the plane. So, and then as we look to the microgrid and all of the things that we're doing to make sure that from a business continuity perspective, no matter what, Pittsburgh, I think, has closed, a couple of hours in the last 20 years. And we're there. We know what we're doing. We know how to do it. We've got a great experienced crew. And from a resiliency and redundancy perspective, I feel very comfortable making that commitment.
Very good, very good. And Jim, what would you like to see coming back your way? What 3 things?
So number one, that continued push for digitization. Again, I've been to many a cargo conference, and it's this continual topic that everybody discusses. And at some point, we've just got to kind of bite the bullet and get that done. And I think we're getting to that point with this crisis that we're dealing with right now. The other thing is that I'd like to see, it'd be helpful from an airline perspective, or from an airport perspective. We got a little more schedule, foresight. The cargo carriers, some of them just keep things very close to their vest, and so we're, from an operational standpoint, if we can get better data, we can better serve customers. And then the other thing I would ask the community to ask is, please come and ask the airport what we can do for you. We're a service industry. We're here to help you run your business successfully and efficiently. And, if you come to me and ask me, hey, I need, X, we'll work to get you that the best that we can. But if or if you're looking at an airport and you'd be like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, there, come to us. Let us try and help you.
That's great. No pressure there then, Christina. What are your 3?
I'd say the first thing is what we'd like to see from the industry is activity. We'd like to see that Pittsburgh is seen as a credible, reliable alternative to the congested existing gateways, and that we can actually help solve the problem of how to make some of the challenges around cost and efficiency a lot more tenable. And that happens because of where we're located, with easy access to the Northeast, Southeast, and Midwest, but also because of the partnership with Anchorage. So I would say first and foremost, we'd like to see more activity. Second, I would say trust us. We know what we're doing. We've been doing this for a long time, and we have a very strong focus on this, on the partnership. And so I would say right after activity would be trust. And then third would be, again, partnership, which is, bring to us a spirit of, how do we work this out together? And and then sit back and be prepared to be really pleased with the results.
That's excellent. I am absolutely made up. I feel motivated, engaged, and inspired. And there's the sunshine again, Christina.
There we go. Right.
It comes if you've either got a shade that you keep opening up and down, but
I don't. My hands are right here.
It's working well. It's working well. Now, on the last point, I'd like to just cover with you before we close. Customer confidence, and they're seeing so many different things now. Prior to COVID, the frustrations you could see in any security queue, where in one airport, take your shoes off, in another airport, take your belt and your watch off, in another airport, your laptop's in, your laptop's out. All these things confuse people. Now, there's valid reasons for them all, whether it's to do with the types of equipment or the number of volumes of people going through, etc. But now in the future, people want to see some sort of consistency and also less physical touch points, because whether it's 500, 600 or 700 on an average trip, it's too many. So what are you guys doing, to inform people of what's being done from a current hygienic and cleaning perspective everywhere, from terminals, from baggage wrapping, from confectionery machinery, from food and beverage, from shops, all the way through to boarding the aircraft, because obviously once they're on the aircraft, it's one of the most hygiene environments that you can have. So to instill that confidence and information and communication, what initiatives are you guys doing as far as the airport is concerned?
Yeah, so for our airport, what we've done is we've got our Safe Travels program. And so we've done changes to our protocols, which is, again, high touch teams that are doing the cleaning, and, changes to how we bringing in new equipment. So we've got some bigger floor sweepers. We can clean more area. We've steam cleaning the fountains and stuff, like water fountains. And then obviously putting that on a video to show to the passengers what's happening. So when they go to the airport's website, it's right there when you click on it and explains what we're doing. But then also the back of the house technology kind of stuff. So we've installed the UV hand sanitizing rails for our escalator systems. We've installed in our elevators now, you have the ability that the air coming in is actually UV sanitized prior, explaining to passengers that the terminal is generally one of the cleaner places to be. And from an air handling perspective, if they think the virus is airborne, our intakes are like 2.5 stories above, the passenger. So it's not something that anybody knows, but we try and educate the passengers to understand that the airport environment is very clean, and it's our duty to keep it that way.
I think, Jim, and I've traveled a couple of times now abroad, and I've seen different cultures handle things differently and different airport operators handle things differently. But I think even though it's an obvious and it's something that people would expect, but they don't witness it enough, that regular information and update, and constantly, if anybody's in a queue with screens, giving statistics, giving information, letting people know how much effort goes into it, A, to make them feel more confident, but B, also to recognize those frontline workers who are achieving that, so they themselves know how good it is what they're doing, and they do it maybe even better than they were doing it normally. So I think, if we keep promoting ourselves as the gatekeepers of so many good things, it will do the world of good for the community as far as confidence is concerned, and then we'll get more people flying again. And Christina, from your perspective, Pittsburgh?
So we started right away when we went into IROPS, irregular operations. We realized that one of the things we had to do was make people comfortable who come to work, and we had to and that would translate into an opportunity to look for more opportunities for the passenger to feel comfortable. In the beginning, there were just a lot of essential workers traveling and people who had to travel. And we felt a very strong responsibility to make sure that they felt comfortable, that we had their back. So what I'd say is right away, we just made our cleaning more visible. In the old days, I said, we used to try to kind of keep that stuff hidden, right? You didn't want necessarily the big carts moving through crowds. Now it's like, make sure people see it. We doubled down on cleaning. We did all the things that everybody else did. We also partnered with Carnegie Robotics, which is a Carnegie Mellon spinoff. And we put in the first autonomous floor scrubber with a UVC light. And we have 4 of them deployed right now. They're all named after very famous aviators. They have a personality of their own, and they are constantly out. They look like a little R2-D2, and they're constantly out cleaning the terminal flooring. We're actually working to test the efficacy of that for the additional removal of pathogens, right, on beyond what you would get from just the cleaning solution and the regular scrubbing. And it turns out that it's very encouraging. So we're pushing from a technology perspective to see everything and anything we can do, including the handrail lights the UVC lights on the handrails, as Jim talked about. So we're exploring how we can look at that for the train, because we have a Bombardier train that takes people from landside to airside and back. And we are exploring touchless technology for our workforce, right? So we've already gotten rid of all of the keypads that you had to punch in to get to work. That's gone. And we're looking for, touchless time clocks and that kind of stuff. And we've been very vocal, as Jim said, in communicating. So we have our own news service called Blue Sky News. And we put out and constantly communicate to our passenger base and to our employee base what we're doing and why we think it's best practice, whether it's air filtration, etc. We're also we put together a post-pandemic planning group that has brought together healthcare workers and healthcare folks, as well as people in environmental sciences, etc., and our teams and people from around the industry and around the world to look at what can we do better and how do we plan for our new terminal to make sure that we're ready for the next one, because as all indications are, this might not be the last time we come to the dance. So how do we make sure that we're future-proofing our facility to inspire confidence in the long term? So as a short term, we look at now, near, next for everything. What are we doing now? What can we do next? What can we do in the near term? And what's next? So we want to constantly keep that vision on, whether it's virtual queuing and people come to the security checkpoint line when their number is up, or, how do we build the infrastructure for that? What can we do today? And how do we build confidence constantly so that people understand that the airport environment is safe and it's healthy? And I don't think that health lens is one that we necessarily looked through with the same vigor prior to COVID, but I promise it's here to stay. And we, among all the other airports, will be taking that into consideration.
Very good. I love that now, near and next. Mm. And typically on cue, just as you were saying, how good things were, that old ray of sunshine came. Jim, we're going to have to get somebody who's able to open and close the shutters on our windows, mate, because we're being left behind here.
Well, next time you get me on, we can do a little bit easier time for you. I'll see if I can get the Northern Lights to be up in the sky.
Which totally puts us to shame.
The man knows how to trump a good hand, eh?
My God.
Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Jim, as I said to you the last time I spoke to you, it's a long time since I've been in Anchorage, but I love my time there. And it was the first time I ever went on a seaplane out Lake Hood. So that's great fond memories. So I'd love to get back there again and see how things have changed. And when I was living in the States and going all around, I also loved Pittsburgh. And I met a lot of Steelers fans and I had some great nights out. So it would be a pleasure to get back there as well.
Anytime.
Thank you so much, the pair of you. It's been a very, very positive exercise. It's lovely to see, especially in this day and age. And maybe, who knows, if some journalists and some of the news media watch it, they'll see that they should be focusing on positives and not so much negativity. So good on you, the pair of you. Great success with the partnership, and lead from the front and keep pushing ahead. So thank you so much for your time, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.